أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن خير حديث كتاب الله وخير هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثات بدعة وكل بدعة دلالة وكل دلالة في النار. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, brothers and sisters, to the second episode or second session of our discussion on marital problems. Now, we said the agenda is quite simple. Causes, we looked at some causes yesterday, at least the primary causes. There could be certain other secondary causes as well, but those were the main causes which we talked about yesterday. And if you missed yesterday's session, please go back and look at the recording, inshallah. We also looked at general solutions. We're still in that same topic, and we covered most of it. We'll just have a few more slides to look at in terms of the general solutions. And then some case studies we're going to look at, representative examples. Some of them are actual case studies, some of them are mixed with actual and imaginary, yeah, depending on my experience, alhamdulillah. And finally, specific solutions to those case studies. And these specific solutions, you should keep in mind, are derived from the general solutions. So they're not different. So the general solutions are there, al-am, and from that we take a subset, we customize, we derive for the khas, for the specific solution to that particular problem or that case study. And we'll see that inshallah as well. Barakallahu fikum. Taib. So just to quickly refresh our memories from what we discussed yesterday, if you can put your answers on the chat box. Now, just simple two questions, small quiz. So what are from the probable root causes for marital problems? So what are from the probable or the potential or the possible root causes for marital problems? A, feminism. B, lack of Islamic knowledge. C, improper upbringing. D, gap between expectations and reality. E, all of the above. And F, none of the above. So what's your choice? What's your option? You can put it in the chat box, inshallah. What are from the possible root causes? Now, Jazakumullah khairan. Yes, alhamdulillah, all of you got it right. It is E, all of the above. So we said all of these causes can potentially lead to issues in marriages. Now, type question. So another sawal for you on the side. Why is B important? Why is lack of Islamic knowledge an issue, can be an issue in marriages? Why should anyone know about Islamic knowledge to have a good marriage? Because like they say, ya Ustad, ya Sheikh, yani, why you're involving the deen in the marriage? Deen is different, marriages are different. You hear this always, right? Especially in the nikah and you know, in the ceremonies, you hear this. So who knows the answer? You can, the brothers can raise their hands, and the sisters, please use the chat box. So why is Islamic knowledge or the lack of it a criteria or it's important for a good marriage? What does Islam have to do with marriage? I know, I'm not sure whether you understood the question. So my question is basically, what does Islam, why is this choice B important? So what does Islam have to do with marriages? No one? Okay, so that they will fear Allah and try their level best to bring compatibility and understanding between them. Naam, okay. Ahsanti, Jazakillah khair. Anybody else? So what you're saying is there is a relationship between Islam and marriages. Based on what? Why are we saying, how can we say there is a relationship between Islam and marriages? Why can't we say marriages are for the dunya? It's a matter of the world. Huh? Let's keep the Islam to the masajids and fasting. Why are you connecting the two? So what's your answer to that? Islam teaches how to live happily married life. Nah. Okay. So Islam. So what she's saying is Islam has or teaches us how to live happily married life. So Islam has something to do with marriages. Nah, Jazakumullah khair. So the answer, all of you are right, alhamdulillah, but specifically I was looking ayat in the Quran. Nah, okay, when we look at Sunnah, it talks about how to live. Yes. So basically, marriage is an act of worship, like we said yesterday. And being an act of worship, it has to have fulfilled two conditions. One, you marry for the sake of Allah, and two, you follow the Sunnah of Rasulullah. And as all of you said, we have examples of in the Sunnah of how to live a happily married life, or how to deal with situations from Rasulullah's own life. And mashallah, he had 11 wives. We can't even manage one sometimes. And Rasulullah had 11 wives. So we have enough and more guidance in terms of this. So we cannot say that marriage is different and married life is different and keep Islam out of it. No, we cannot say this. Islam is already a part of it. This is a very important point, brothers and sisters, because we're going to use Islam to solve the problems. We're going to use Islam and Islamic knowledge and the Sunnah to solve the problems. Number two, what is not from the attack vectors on a Muslim family? So we talked about this yesterday. We said the Muslim family is being influenced by various attack sources or various sources. So I'm asking, the question is, what is not from that? A, relatives, friends, and neighbors. B, movies, television, social media, internet. C, sports, film, and music personalities, stars. D, feminism. E, workplace flirtations and romances. And F, implementing the Quran and the Sahih Sunnah. So what is not from something which influences and spoils a Muslim family? That's what I meant, okay? I should have made the question a bit different. What is not from something which spoils or impacts the Muslim family? Nah. Easy question, alhamdulillah. So yes, the answer is F. Obviously, if you implement the Quran and the Sahih Sunnah within the family inshallah will be safe and secured under the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we saw this slide yesterday as well, alhamdulillah. And we also said there are various stages, or rather marital problems can fit into any one of these stages or any one of these phases. And the best is to resolve it yourself. So nobody should even know, even your neighbors should not know that there could be a problem in this family, right? So the best thing is to solve it yourself. But then sometimes we said it's required to involve parents, it's required to involve maybe counselors, it may be required, because sometimes, for example, a sister, let's say her parents are not alive, or her parents are too old and she doesn't want to bother them with this tension and with this stress and spoil their health. So she may look at some counselor, she may look at somebody whom she trusts, for example. That's okay, inshallah. And finally, the last phase, we said if nothing works out, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has permitted, though it is mostly hated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The talaq, divorce, is something which is hated. And khula as well. There's hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that a lady who asks for khula without any due reason, she is cursed by Allah. So marriages are meant to be kept secure and in place. So to break them is easy, right? But then we start repenting. Oh, Shaykh, oh, Ustad, I give talaq. What do I do now? Can I take her back? What is the ruju? How to do it? You should think of all of this before you get angry. So anyway, but that is something which is allowed in Islam, though it is something not is disliked. You can say makruh, but it is allowed. Someone can at that point break up the marriage. Now, So in terms of general solutions, quickly, a quick recap. As we said, the primary foundation is taqwa of Allah. Ya alladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. And we saw this ayat as well. Ya ayyuhan nasu ittaqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida wa khalaqa minha zawjaha wa bathaha minhuma rijalan kathira wa nisaa wattaqullaha alladhi tasaaluna bihi wal arham inna allaha kana alaykum raqiba. Yeah, we saw this as well. Again, taqwa of Allah is all over the place. And these we said are ayat which the imam or the qadi recites in a marriage ceremony. When he gets you married to your wife, or the wife to the husband, he recites this. Now, so asking the spouses to fear Allah and the general public as well who are attending the walima or the marriage. Also, this he will recite, Ya alladhina amanu taqullaha wa qulu qawlan sadida. Now, so the point we wanted to make is the fear of Allah. And this we saw the hadith from the farewell sermon in Hajjat al-Wada, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the last commands he gave us, one of the last instructions he gave us before leaving this dunya is to fear Allah concerning our women, addressing the brothers, to fear Allah concerning our women. And then he addressed both the parties. He said, the women have rights over you and the men have rights over the women. We all have rights, but with rights come responsibilities as well. Now, right? And in Rasulullah, like we said, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. He has the most excellent example and the role model to follow in our dealings with our spouses. So now we want to start, inshallah, and continue with the rights and responsibilities. So you remember the khutbah al-wada, Rasulullah said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the wives have rights over the husbands and the husbands also have rights over the wives. And what we have collected here is based on hadith, based on sahih evidence, based regarding the rights of the wife and the woman. So let's start with, inshallah, the rights of the wife. Ladies first. Huh? Right, okay, fine. So the rights of the wife. Number one. So when we say rights of the wife, this is something of a responsibility upon the husband. You get the point? So when we say rights of the wife on the husband, which means this is the responsibility of the husband. Rather, again, when we say rights of the wife upon the husband, we mean this is the responsibility of the husband. He has to do this in a marriage. Fine. Number one, Islamic education and guidance. It is the husband's duty now to instruct the wife, to advise the wife, which means what? The husband himself should have the right knowledge in the first place. The husband himself should be of the right aqidah. The husband himself should be attending the correct scholarly circles. Excuse me. Yeah. For example, small example, Khutbat al-Jummah. You know, the Friday sermon. Now, all of us attend this, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Yesterday was Jummah. How many of us went back home after Khutbah al-Jummah and informed our wives about the topic of the khutbah? Ya Ustad, I don't understand Arabic language. Learn. Make an attempt. When you can learn French, when you can learn, I don't know, German, Chinese, when you can learn various new courses for your career advancement, when you can learn new skills to improve your careers, can't you learn the language of the Quran? The language in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke, the revelation. So make an attempt and inshallah Allah will make it easy. But going back to the point is that fact that the sisters largely do not attend the Jummah khutbah. So it's upon the husband, it's his responsibility to go back and tell her what had happened. Or for example, he attends a class like this one, for example. If a husband is attending this and his wife is not attending, he needs to inform her, he needs to send her the recording, he needs to give her a summary of what was discussed, for example. How many of us do that? How many husbands and wives sit together and discuss deen? We talk about the bills, the expenses, the children's education, everything under the sun. And subhanAllah, sometimes we have couples who are married for 40, 50 years. Wallahi, 40, 50 years. And the husband has no idea, no clue about his wife's aqidah, about the wife's fiqh. How is she doing wudu? Is she doing wudu correctly? Is she wiping her neck in wudu? Mushkila. Because in wudu, as we know, wiping the neck is not from the sunnah. It's a bid'ah. But this guy is married for 50 years and the wife has been doing this. He has no clue because they don't discuss these things. They're more worried about dunya. And he is held responsible. He is the shepherd of the flock. He is accountable for this, the husband. So Islamic education and guidance in a nice way, because sometimes wives, depending on the woman, of course, not all women are like this, but sometimes women are resistive to advice. They resist change. So the husband should know how to handle his wife. I mean, this goes without saying. Being a husband, this is your job. As being a manager in the company, you should know how to handle your employees. Some employees don't like to be told what to do. Some employees are okay with that. So a manager should treat each one differently. He should know that. That's the skill of a good manager. Likewise, a husband should know, being married for 40, 50 years, he should know how to manage his wife. Now, this and it goes without saying. Yeah. Number 2, excuse me, financial rights. So the husband should take care of the financial needs of his wife. That's his responsibility. That's what we mean when the rights, when the wife has financial rights over the husband. But what is this, Ustad? So can the wife, knowing that the husband has, let's say, a meager salary, keep requesting for new suits every week, every day, wants to eat out every weekend, maybe twice every weekend. So the wife also, from her part, should know what can my husband afford, what's allowed for him, what's possible, and keep her requests and keep her demands within that. But because many arguments happen in families because of this issue as well. But from the husband's perspective, he has to make sure within his means that he puts a roof over her head, a decent accommodation based on his salary and income and whatever, decent clothing based on his, again, means, and food. These are the 3 factors: food, clothing, and shelter, accommodation. If he can do this, he has done his job. He has done his responsibility. Beyond this is a bonus. Beyond this, if he wants to give more and more and more, alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair. You should be thankful to him. Alhamdulillah. Barakallah feek. Taib. Barakallah feekum. Sorry, financial number 2. Example of this. What happens if the wife, okay, question for you. What if the husband can afford, and the wife knows this, right? She knows this because she's been living with him. She knows his salary, for example, whatever. But the husband is stingy. He doesn't give her needs, her necessities. Sometimes she's wearing the same outfit for days and days. She doesn't have anything else. Eid comes, he doesn't get her a new one, for example, though he can afford it. What should the wife do? Now, brothers, you can raise your hands. I don't know whether you don't. Why are you shy to answer on the chat, on the microphone? You can use your speakers and microphone, sorry. So what should the wife do in this case? She can take from his pocket, okay. Taib, do you have dalil for this? Omar, do you have Jazakallah khair? Do you have dalil for this? So someone says she can take from his pocket, which means literally stealing, technically. Do we have dalil for this? She's right. She's right. Okay, type. Hind bin Utbah. Hind, you know Hind? Who is Hind? She asks him, okay, yeah, fine, yeah, of course. She asks him as a first step, Naam, because this is her right, and she can advise him nicely and bring the evidences and tell him that, I need this, and this is Eid coming, for example, I don't have anything to wear. And Eid is something where the sunnah is to wear a new outfit, a new suit, a new dress, if you can afford it. Naam. And Rasulullah used to do this. So she can ask him, yes, of course. But let's say he still refuses. He refuses. And someone said she can take from his pocket. So Hind bin Utbah. Who was Hind bin Utbah? Hind. And she's radiallahu anha. Initially she was not, but then she became Muslim. The wife of Abu Sufyan. Abu Sufyan. Both of them were initially kafirs, but after Fatah Makkah, they became Muslim. Abu Sufyan just before Fatah Makkah, and Hind as well, his wife. So once later on, Hind came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she said, "My husband is very stingy. He doesn't give me his basic needs. Sorry, my basic needs. He's very stingy. Can I take from him without his knowledge?" Rasulullah said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Yes, take how much you require. Only the bare minimum which you require." So he approved of this. And approval is sunnah. So the brothers now are going to hide their wallets. Huh? The brothers should start hiding their wallets now. Okay, so yeah, so in this case, in this situation, now she can in this very adverse situation. Now, okay. Another question commonly arises in this area. The sisters mentioned this. Ustad, my husband, he sends money to his mother, his father, his brother. He takes care of his sister's marriage. What about us? We also have children. We also have our children's future to look at. He's spending all his money there. What about us? A common question. And some husbands, maybe also many husbands, I don't know. Yeah, do this. So what is the response? You get the question regarding financial rights, right? So his sister says, my husband is sending most of his salary back home. He looks after the brother's education. He looks after the sister's marriage. He spends on that. What about us? We also have children. Our children's future is important. He doesn't bother about this. So my response to the sister is that as long as your husband is taking care of yours and your children's, the family's clothing, accommodation, and shelter as per your requirements, and you're okay with that, what he does with the rest of his money is his choice. You have no right to interfere. Absolutely no right. This is a God-given right to him. He can send his 50% salary to his mother, his father, anything. He's supposed to take care of them. Maybe his sister, they don't have money to get her married. This is his duty. So as a wife, as long as you are taken care of and your children are taken care of, you have no right to question this, because many arguments start off because of this as well. Right? Like recently someone was saying that they had a house back in India, a big house, where the husband's brother and the mother are living, and he wants to sell the house. So they were saying, how can he sell it? It is our house, and my family is there, my children are there, and we may go, and when we go to, if you have to go back to India, where shall we live, and blah, 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 blah. The response is simple. You have a house here? Yes, alhamdulillah, Ustad, we have. You're taken care of? Yes, Ustad. Khalas. What he does with his house back in India is his problem. Do not interfere. Do not go out of the way to cause problems in your marriages. Now, but yes, balance should be maintained between the two. Someone said there should be maintained balance. Yes, I agree with you. But this is what I said. The balance is there. And after the balance, he's sending extra money. What is balance? What is remaining with him? He wants to spend on his family. It is up to him. It's his money. Like, for example, if the wife is working, now, still the husband has to take care of her. The wife is not required to put even a single halala, a single fill, a dirham, a dollar, a shilling, a pence, whatever on the table. No, it is her money. She can do with it what she wishes. She can buy suits, she can buy bags, she can send money to her family without asking her husband. It's her money. It's her money. In spite of that, the husband still has to take care of her. It's his responsibility as per this number 2, financial rights. Even if she's working, he can't come and say, Ustad, my wife is working, so I will not take care of her. No, you still have to take care of her. Barakallahu feekum. Type. Number 3, fair and kind treatment. Fair and kind treatment. Fair and just when you have multiple wives. So the responsibility of the husband is to make sure that he gives each one their due, for example, and being kind with them. This is something most of us are lacking, if not all of us. Being kind to our wives. The point, well, I really don't understand the root cause of this. There could be various issues. I have seen, based on my experience, various, alhamdulillah, various reasons for this. Sometimes the husband's parents have these issues, so he grows up looking at that and he does the same thing. Yeah, there are so many reasons really, but that's besides the point. We can't have excuses and say, okay, this is the reason, that's why I did it. No, there is no excuse. Being kind to the wives is a requirement, a responsibility by the husband, and right of the wife over the husband. Rasulullah said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best of you is the one who is the most kind to his wives, and I'm the one who is most kind to my wives. So this goes back to the deen again, because we have a hadith. We have a hadith. And Rasulullah is saying the best amongst you is the one who is most kind to his wives. Yes, sometimes arguments happen, sometimes this happen, but you go back to the sunnah always. Always keeping your mind taqwa of Allah, fearing Allah. Even if you're right, it doesn't matter. She's your wife at the end of the day. She's not your enemy or your, your business partner whom you don't like. No, she's your wife. You're one family. And you came together under the name of Allah and under the speech of Allah. So being kind to wives is her right. And we have dalil for this, so many dalails. Numerous from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'll give you an example. Safiya, the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-Mu'minin radiyallahu anha. She was a Jewish lady, and in the Battle of Khaybar, her brother and husband were killed by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Rasulullah married her, and she became Muslim. And Safiya was of short stature. She was a bit of a short lady. Rasulullah, once they were traveling in a ghazwa, in an army expedition, and Safiya, it was her turn to join him or accompany him. And when they had stopped, they had rested for a while, and they were going to leave again. So she had to get onto her camel, Safiya. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She's short. Even if the camel sits down, and the camel usually, of course, sits down to mount it. And you've seen camels, right? They are very high animals. They sit down, and then the rider, they get on, or they mount the camel. Safiya, even when the camel was sitting down, she couldn't get onto it. She was having a problem. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, her husband, in front of the entire Muslim army, the leader of the Muslims, because sometimes, why am I mentioning in front of the entire Muslim army? Because sometimes we brothers, we feel embarrassed to do things in front of others, which we may do in the house, but in front of others we don't do it. For example, like how many of us, for example, hold open the door of the car for our wives to get inside? Ustad, why? She can open her own door. She has hands. She can open it. Kind treatment. Huh? Kind treatment. Oh no, Ustad, people are watching. What will they say? They will say, I'm a henpecked husband. Who cares? Who cares what they say? It's your family. You want to be happy, and she wants to be happy with you. Who the hell cares what the world says? Will they come and help you on the day of judgment? No. Nafsi, nafsi. Nah. So a small example. How many open the door for the ladies to get inside? SubhanAllah. So coming back to the example of the camel, the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in front of the entire Muslim army, the leader of the Muslims, the commander of the Muslims, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam kneels down. Kneels down. He puts his foot knee on the ground. The other knee is propped up. You get my idea, right? So she puts her foot on his thigh and climbs onto the camel. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. She puts her foot on his thigh and climbs onto the camel. Kind treatment. Which leads us to the next point, which is like, excuse me, not being harmed. This is her right. And this includes physical and mental torture, both. So someone may say, oh, Ustad, no, I don't touch my wife at all. You can ask her. I don't lay a finger on her. But then he is harassing her, he's mentally torturing her with remarks, with comments about her family, with you did this and you did that, and if you had done this, you know the story. Yeah, all kinds of comments. So she's mentally khalas, lost it. This also is being harmed. So it doesn't necessarily mean physically. Physically, like we said yesterday, is definitely a no-no, absolute no-no. But even mentally, this is her right upon you. Show me one al-Mu'minin from the Ummahat al-Mu'minin, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, one of them who complained, A'udhu Billah, that they were mentally tortured by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One. Forget the wives, any Sahabi who had this complaint. Astaghfirullah, A'udhu Billah, impossible. Now, so always we go back to the Sunnah, brothers and sisters. This is because we are Muslims. Our life is based on the Quran and the Sunnah, our life. Not the masjid life, the entire life, 24/7. Now, for example, points 3 and 4, another example comes to mind. Aisha radiallahu anha. Rasulullah used to call her what? Who knows? Yeah, yalla, wake up. Who knows? What did Rasulullah use as a nickname for Aisha? Lovingly, what did he call? Naam, Jazakillah khair. Humaira. Humaira, or the white-skinned one, because she was relatively fairer. When we say white skin, we don't mean here like the Caucasians, the Europeans we have today. No. But she was, her skin complexion was relatively lighter than the rest of the people in Arabia. Because Arabia, usually, it's very hot, the sun is hot. People are not fair, usually. Now, yes, he used to call her either Humaira or something else as well. Aish. He used to call her Aish. Naam. He used to call her Jazakumullah khair. Naam. He used to call her Aish. Lovingly. But what do we do as husbands? We use the worst of nicknames on the wife. And we know she doesn't like it. You can make out with the body language. But we want to prove a point. We want to show that we are, better. We want to show we are superior. Or you are from, let's say, for example, she is from a town and you're from a city, for example. So you make fun of her origins from the town. Bear in mind, this is not something which she chose. It is Allah's qadr who made her being born in a town. She didn't choose this. It is Allah's qadr. So by making fun of that, her birth or origins, you're indirectly making fun of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A'udhu billah. So use nice names, good names. Don't spoil the wife's names when you call them. Things which she likes. All this increases the love. And this is the sunnah. Aisha radiallahu anha in the hadith, she would say, there are two riwayat. One talks about eating a piece of meat. The other talks about drinking a glass of milk. Both are right, alhamdulillah. So it could have happened on different occasions. Knowing Rasulullah, it could have happened on different occasions. So she said, I would eat a piece of meat. They would be having meat, for example, and keep the piece down, right? Rasulullah would take the same piece of meat and looking at me from the corner of his eye, and I'm looking at him, he would bite from the same spot that I had eaten from. And likewise, the other riwayat, she would drink a glass of milk and put it down, and Rasulullah would take the same glass and drink from the same spot where her lips had touched the glass. And she said, I would get so embarrassed. This is love, brothers and sisters. What would you and I do? Yeah, Ustad, how can I do that? I will get the COVID, I will get the virus. Yeah. I don't know whether she brushed her teeth in the morning. How can I do that? I'm going to eat from a different piece. We have different plates. We have different glasses. Because the germs will travel. Subhanallah. There were no germs at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wallahi ajib. Taib. Number 5. Again, there's something highly important in a marriage and largely neglected. Largely neglected. And this also we have seen is a prime driver or a root cause for issues in the marriages. Lack of sexual enjoyment. But here we're talking about the wife's rights. So as a husband wants to have his way and wants to enjoy sexually, the wife is also a human being. She's not a robot. She also has desires. She also may see non-mahram men by chance here and there. She also has her desires. Who's going to fulfill her desires? So it's a right of a wife upon the husband, and thereby the husband's responsibility, that when she wants to do it or she wants to have intercourse, the husband should respond. He should. And he should take care of her desires as well. And the Sunnah is talks all about this. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even when Aisha was having her periods, she was in a menstrual cycle, Aisha radiallahu anha. See, our deen, Rasulullah, as we said, brothers and sisters, is way of life. And there is no shyness in the deen, especially in these matters. And we have hadith about these things. Why? Because we have to follow the Sunnah in everything, even matters of the bed. We have a dua, for example. Before approaching the spouse, there is a dua, which both the spouses should recite. And Rasulullah said, if you recite this dua, the shaitan will not harm your child if Allah has decreed that you will have a child. Allahu Akbar. How many of us think about this dua? We think about the candles, we think about the roses, we think about, I don't know, something else. The dua, no, we forget. We don't even know. Coming back to the hadith of Aisha. Aisha, but even when she was having her cycles, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because in those days they didn't have those kind of the pads which sisters wear today, right? So they would have this pieces of cloth which would get spoiled, and then they would change it, wash it. That's how they would do it. Alhamdulillah. So he would put a piece of cloth, she said, over her private parts because she's in her periods, and he would fondle her. He would make foreplay, everything besides the actual act. The sexual enjoyment for Aisha. And nothing to be shy and ashamed about. The reason I'm saying this is something highly neglected in a marriage today. People do not bother, even if it is there, it is on the terms and the wishes and the whims and the fancies of the husband. The wife is neglected. The husband doesn't give. How many of us ask our wives, what is it that you like in the bed? Really? She has fantasy, she has desires. How many of us do this? Because if you don't do it in the marriage, in the bed, which is halal for you, you're going to look for haram channels. You're going to look for haram channels. This is a fact. And today, the fitna is all over the place, very easily accessible. At the click of a button, at the swipe of a finger, it is there. So unless you manifest and you satisfy yourself in the bed in the halal manner which Allah has decreed for you, your husband and wife, you're going to look elsewhere. So this is something we need to really focus on, the enjoyment of the wife, because she also has desires. She also wants to be fulfilled in the bed. This is her right. Number 6, if a husband is practicing polygamy, so he has, let's say, 4 wives, the maximum. Now, he should stay or spend 1 out of every 4 nights with the wives. So, for example, we have 4 wives, A, B, C, and D. Now, so Yom al-Ahad, wife A. Yom al-Ithnain, wife B. Yom al-Thulatha, wife C. Yom al-Arba, wife D. Yom al-Khamis, wife A again. Yom al-Jum'ah, wife B. And it goes on. This is her right. All the 5, A, B, C, and D, this is their right upon the husband. The husband can't say, oh no, I want to spend this extra night with this wife A, I want to cancel your turn. No, this is not his. He cannot do this unless wife B willingly does this. And what is the dalil for this? Yalla, wake up. What is my question? The question is, yes, mashallah, mashallah, mashallah. Sauda, radiallahu anha. And this happened when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in his last days. right? As we know, he wanted to stay with Aisha, radiallahu anha. But like we said, he has to spend one night across all the 11 wives. So he was kept saying, where should I stay? Where should I stay today? Where should I stay? So they all understood and they said, okay, they gave up their rights. And Sauda also gave up her right before that. Sauda gave up her right before, I'm mixing two things. They gave up her right before when Rasulullah was okay and alive. Because she was old, she gave up her right. But during her death, all of the wives gave up their rights so that he can stay with Aisha radiallahu anha. And you know that he passed away in Aisha's room. Sorry, going back to the point 6, one thing I forgot, which is also kind of mapped to point 5. It is the right of the wife that of course, he spends every 1 in 4 days with her, assuming he has 4 wives. And it is also her right that he sleeps with her under the same bed sheet or bed cover of the bed. He has to spend, even if he doesn't want to approach her, maybe they don't want to do it for whatever reasons, he still has to sleep with her. This is her right upon the husband. That's why we talked about yesterday about the phased approach of disciplining the wife, right? In case she does something against the Sharia, is separating from her in the bed. But otherwise, no, the husband has to spend the night in the bed with her, the same bed. Now, number 7, and this again shows you the beauty of Islam, is that when a person, let's say, is married to wife A, and then he takes wife B. And wife B is a virgin. She has been previously unmarried. Islam says that he has to spend 7 nights or 7 days with her. So the other wives lose their term. But this is the Sharia. Because she is a new wife, and B, she is a virgin. Something new for her. So the husband spends 7 nights with her. So she gets used to him and he gets used to her. And then he goes back to the cycle every other day. But if wife B, the second wife, the newly married wife, was a previously married wife. So she was married earlier, her husband divorced her, or her husband is dead, whatever. In this case, Islam says he spends 3 days or 3 nights with her. The first 3 days, because she's still a new wife for him. So 3. And then from the 4th night, the same cycle starts. Allahu Akbar. You see the beauty of the deen. And Rasulullah, this shows you again, because see, like I said, jealousy is natural. It's something which is innate, especially in such situations of polygamy. So, Rasulullah, his habit, what was the sunnah? When he married a new wife, and this hadith is from Anas bin Malik radiallahu anh, that the Messenger of Allah gave a walima on the morning of his marriage to Zainab bin Jahash. We talked about Zainab, I think, earlier. I don't remember. Maybe in my Sirah course, sorry. So Zainab bin Jahash, yeah? And which he fed the Muslims. He gave the Muslims a walima, a feast, with bread and meat. And then after that, he went out to the Ummahat al-Mu'mineen, the other wives. Each one of them, he went to them, each one of their rooms. He greeted them. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. He greeted them. He made dua for them. And then he went back to Zainab bin Jahash. Allahu Akbar. You see, Yani Rasulullah sallallahu, he took care of the smallest details. Because he knows, now that he's married to Zainab bin Jahash, Zainab bin Jahash was very beautiful, as per the scholars of Hadith and Sirah. So he knew that this will cause jealousy. And this was his practice with any wife, for example, actually. So once he got married, before the wedding night, or the morning after the wedding, the morning after the wedding night, when he gave the walima, he would visit all his other wives, just to make sure that they're okay, and to say that I'm still your husband. Yeah. Yes, I took a new wife, but it doesn't mean it changes anything. Because what do? We take a new wife and we forget the old wife. Though she's been married for 20, 30 years, she's completely ignored and neglected. SubhanAllah. But this is not the sunnah, brothers. And this is a very dangerous action. Because on the day of judgment, Rasulullah said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the hadith, this person will come inclined, he will come leaning on one side because he favored one wife against the other. So Rasulullah knows this, and he knows that this can cause some jealousy now. So he will go to all the wives, greet them, wish them, make dua for them. Make dua for them. and then go back to Zainab bin Jahash. Allahu Akbar. And finally, number 8 is to allow the wife, and this is the right of the wife upon the husband, to allow her to visit her sick relatives, funerals, and so on, within a family, and so on and so forth. As long, there's a condition to this, of course, as long as this visit does not harm the interests of the family. What do I mean? Okay, before what do I mean? So, bear in mind, brothers who are listening, that this lady, your wife, Naam, she has left her entire family. She also had a family like you. She has parents, she has brothers, she has sisters, she has maybe sister-in-laws, brothers' husbands, nephews, nieces, I don't know. Big family, small family, it doesn't matter. She has a family with whom she grew up. She grew up. She spent her young days in a particular house, memories. She grew up in this family. And she leaves everything at the drop of a hat to come and stay with a stranger, a complete stranger. Because Allah commands this, for the sake of Allah, because marriage is part of the deen. Whereas the husband, in most cases, probably he's still with his family, he's still in touch with the family. Now, because we have some cases, and we'll see these case studies, where the husband commands the wife not to speak to her family, not to call them, not to have even a chat with them on Telegram or social media, whatever. Subhanallah. So we should keep this in mind. And this goes also back to point number 4, because in her house she was not harmed. Her father did not even raise a finger, didn't even shout at her. What right do you have now to hit her? She's not a camel or a horse which you buy and you hit and you ride on it. No, she's a human being and she's your wife. So this is the first thing. So if she wants to visit now and then, you should permit her as a husband, especially if there are things like funerals, or let's say a near and dear ones passes away, like father, parents, or they have some surgeries, they have some they're seriously sick. And you should allow her to visit. This is not allowed. It's not right to restrain her without any due reason, and say just because you want to prove a point, just because you may not like her family. This is possible. The husband may not like the wife's family for whatever reasons. This is possible, but that should not come in the way of your wife visiting them. Okay, you don't visit them, that's something else, but the wife should still visit them. Unless, the scholars say, unless this visit is going to cause a problem in your marriage. So for example, what do I mean? So she visits her parents or her family or whatever house every now and then, yeah, and they poison her against you. They poison her. This happens. They poison her against you. They poison her against your family. They poison her against your spending on your family. In this case, now you can prevent her. But this is the only exception. But otherwise, this is not the case, and they don't really do this. Alhamdulillah. Yani, this is something you should be easy in and flexible in, and send her to visit, and at least even speak. And some brothers don't even allow their wives to speak to their families. Subhanallah. Without any due reason. Now, type. So these were some rights of the wife. We want to now move on to this hadith, which is in Bayhaqi and Ibn Majah Sahih. Abdullah ibn Afwa said that when Mu'adh ibn Jabal, Sahabi Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he came back from Sham, from Syria, he came and made sajda to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He prostrated to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ya Mu'adh, what is this? Why are you making sajda to me?" So Mu'adh said, "Ya Rasulullah, in Sham, I saw the rabbis and I saw the priests over there, because the Christians and the Jews were there. I saw them being prostrated to by their people." So the Jews and the Christians, they were prostrating to their rabbis and their priests and their, the big guys there. So I thought that you, the Messenger of Allah, has more right for anyone to prostrate than those people. You are the Messenger of Allah. That's why I'm prostrating. Rasulullah said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, do not do that. Do not do that. If I were to command anyone to prostrate to anyone other than Allah, I would have commanded women to prostrate to their husbands. By the one in whose hand is my soul, of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that is Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala. So Rasulullah is swearing by Allah. No woman can fulfill her duty towards Allah until she fulfills her duty towards her husband. If he asks her for intimacy, even if she is on her camel saddle, she should not refuse. And this hadith is sahih. So multiple points from this hadith. Now this is a transition from rights of the wife and I'm going into the rights of the husband, right? Which is coming next. So Rasulullah says, no one should prostrate, make sajda to anybody else. Out of respect, out of veneration, out of worship. No, absolutely no. Prostration is only for Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala. Now, and he said, if it was allowed, there is an if there. Either if it was allowed, I would have commanded the wife to prostrate to the husband, because the rights of the husband or the wife are so great. And the hadith continues, as we saw. So the point I want to make now and get into that is the rights of the husband, which means the responsibilities of the wife for the husband. So it works both ways, right? Like we saw earlier. So now we're looking at the rights of the husband, which means responsibilities of the wife for the husband. The hadith we saw in the previous slide is also in Tirmidhi. Now, firstly and foremost, the most important, obedience in matters of good. Obedience in matters of good. Like the hadith says, there is no obedience to creation in disobedience to the creator. Again, there is no obedience to creation in disobedience to the creator. So what does this mean? As long as the husband is asking the wife to do something which is as per the Sharia, it doesn't go against the Sharia, she should obey. She should obey. So what do the feminists say? They will say, oh, Ustad, what is this? Why should we obey him? Yani, this is inequality, this is fala. We just saw the hadith that she would have been asked to prostrate to her husband. So what about this obeying? And this nizam, this hukum and this rule is put in place for the betterment and the benefit of the family and the society at large. And the wives, basically, we have the hadith also in Ad-Darimi and made Sahih by Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah. Rasulullah says, meaning of which is, if a woman, and I want the sisters to pay attention, if the wife, the woman, offers her 5 daily salawat, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, fast the month of Ramadan. Of course, she could miss some days, but she has to make up. That's what it means. Fast the month of Ramadan. Guards her chastity, her private parts, and her chastity, the hijab and everything, and obeys her husband. It will be said to her on the day of judgment, enter Jannah from whichever gates of Jannah that you wish. Allahu Akbar. Yeah, khawat, sisters, it is so easy for you. Wallahi, it is so easy for you. The brothers, they have to work a lot to enter even one gate. Because Jannah has how many gates? Who knows? Yalla, wake up. Jannah has how many gates? Paradise. MashaAllah, okay. Well, hellfire has how many gates? Jannah is 8. Now, hellfire has 7. Now, Jazakumullah khair. So 8 gates. 8 gates. There's the gate of Rayyan, which is the gate for the fasting. There's the gate of jihad, for example, and so on and so forth. So a brother, a husband, needs to do a lot of effort to enter one gate. For the wives, for the sisters, it is very simple. Again, a woman who prays the 5 daily prayers, fasts the month of Ramadan, guards her chastity, and obeys her husband, it will be told to her on the day of judgment, enter paradise through any gate which you wish. Allahu Akbar. This hadith is sahih. For the men is difficult. Wallah is difficult. Abu Bakr Siddiq once after Fajr, usually Rasulullah in the Masjid Nabawi, after Salatul Fajr, he would turn around, he would sit down, and everyone would sit down. They would discuss their life in Jahiliyyah, various mathail, and dreams especially. So Rasulullah would ask, did anyone of you have a dream last night? And he would interpret the dream. This was the regular practice. So once after this happened, after Salatul Fajr, morning, Rasulullah asked the congregation, has any one of you visited the sick today? Abu Bakr raised his hand, radiallahu anhu. And then he said, has any one of you, and Abu Bakr said, Ya Rasulullah, I was leaving for the masjid and I heard Abdurrahman ibn Auf was sick, so I visited him on the way to the masjid. Rasulullah said, has anyone given sadaqah today? Remember, it's still Fajr, huh? It's Fajr. Abu Bakr raised his hand. He said, Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, when I was coming to the masjid, I saw a person whom I felt was in need and I gave him sadaqah. Rasulullah said, is anyone fasting today? Abu Bakr Siddiq raised his hand again. Allahu Akbar. And Umar bin Khattab and other people, Ravis, and who were narrating the hadith, they said, Ya Rasulullah, we're just starting the day. It's Fajr. Rasulullah said, anyone who combines all of this in a day will be asked in, and there was one more thing I forgot in the hadith. Excuse me. Visiting the sick, sadaqah, fasting, there's something else. Was it following the funeral? I'm not sure. I think it's following the funeral. There's something else. There were 4 points. If anyone of you knows, just remind me, help me. So Rasulullah said, if anyone combines all of this in a day, in one day, on the day of judgment, he can enter Jannah through any gate which he wishes. That's difficult, brothers. It's difficult. It's not easy. And many of us don't do this. Even one of those 4 things in a day is a big thing for us. But for the sisters, for the wives, it's simple and easy. And one of them is obedience obeying the husband in matters of good. Now, number 2, matters of good. When I say matters of good, what do I mean? So, for example, if the husband tells the wife, it's embarrassing for me if you come out with me in the hijab, so don't wear the hijab. What should she do? She should refuse. Because hijab, the command of hijab, is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a matter of obedience to Allah. So in this case, she refuses, for example. This is an example, yeah. But everything else, which is as per the Sharia, he asks her to pray on time. He asks her to a special request for something to eat, for example. As long as she can do it, she should do it, inshallah. This keeps the family healthy and happy now. Number 2, guarding his property and honor. So the rights of the husband over the wife is that she takes care of his property and his honor. She defends him in gatherings of her family, for example. So in her family, when she goes to visit a family, for example, and somebody makes fun of her husband, she defends him. Now, even if it is right, she defends him. Defending his property when he's out, because the husband usually works, right? He goes out. What happens if the women of today, they also work? They also go out to offices and wherever they go. Who's going to take care of the property and the honor? The maid? You have a guard dog or something? I don't know. Allah subhanallah. So this is the second right of the husband over the wife. That when he's away, she takes care of everything in the house. She's in charge. She's the vice president or whatever now. Number 3 is not to leave the house without his permission. And this is again something which many sisters ask me questions about, and we'll get to that inshallah. But generally speaking, to leave the house, which means what in the first place? وَقَرْنَ بُيُوتِكُنَّ, Allah says in the Quran, and stay in your houses. So the default is that she's in the house. If she wants to leave for a Sharia reason, now she seeks permission from her husband. She wants to go to the doctor. She's sick. She wants to visit her family, which is also a valid reason. What else? She wants to go to a halakha of sisters for learning Islam. She has to seek permission. The husband can say yes, or the husband can say no. But permission has to be sought. Now, one of the sisters had asked a question in one of the earlier workshops of mine, I think about hijab. Now, I just want to mention that I'm not sure if she's listening, but that she was someone, I think, if I remember right, she used to work. Now, and the husband had allowed her to work. Now, I could be wrong, but she was usually, basically she was going out routinely, and the husband was okay with it, and he had allowed it. Now, and she had to take a friend to the hospital or something, and she left without informing her husband. And her husband was upset. So what do you think? Was it in his right to be upset in this case? Let me ask you before I tell you. You get the point? So this sister is regularly going out, I think, to work. Let's say, for example, to work as a teacher or whatever. And the husband has allowed her. She's going out. Okay, also in this case, she doesn't have to seek permission every day, because she has a default approval, a pre-approved whatever, yeah? In principle, it's approved with the husband, so she can go. So every day she shouldn't say, oh, hubby, I need to go tomorrow to work. No, it's not required. Khalas, your husband has told you can go to work in this school, girls' school, for example, with Sharia attire. Alhamdulillah, no problem, inshallah. Carry on. But now she went with a friend to take her to the hospital or something. And apparently, I think she forgot to inform her husband. So her husband is upset. So is it right for him to be upset? Yes or no? Okay, someone says she still needs to ask her husband. So it is right for him to be upset. Okay, anybody else differs from this? Is it right for him to be upset? Yes or no? Is it correct? No. So yeah, Sheikh, you're still thinking, okay, not required. Someone says not required to seek permission. He should not be upset. Required. Okay, fine. Okay. No, he should not be upset. Okay. Right. So my question is now, the husband has given permission only for the teaching job, right? And we know in Islam that a wife cannot leave the house without seeking her husband's permission, or asking him or informing him, whatever. And in this case, she left. Yes, she forgot. That's something else. Maybe she genuinely forgot. Yes, I can understand, because it was an emergency situation, a hospital situation. But the husband still he is within his right to be upset. But maybe he doesn't have to blow it off, yani, because it was for something daruri, something necessary. Alhamdulillah, no problem, inshallah. But he can tell her, yes, you should have asked me. So that is still within his right. She should have called him, she should have texted him, whatever. That I'm going, Fana sister is sick, I need to take her to the hospital. She can test her. Today we have modern means of communication. He doesn't answer the phone, leave him a message, send him a message. Now, that she still should have been done. And he's within his right to be a bit upset, but not to be overly upset, obviously, inshallah, because she didn't go to a party. She went to the hospital, alhamdulillah. But yes, barakallahu fikum. Number 4, traveling with him if he desires. This is again from the Sunnah. We saw this now with the hadith of Safiya. Now, that a wife, if her husband wants her to go with him somewhere, she should. Now, on a trip, on to visit his family, whatever. Yes, she should go with him, inshallah. Number 5, the same thing which we discussed for the wives earlier, is that they're giving into him when he desires. So when he wants to sexually be satisfied, the wife should give in. Unless, of course, there is exception that she is in her periods. Yes, she should inform him that. Maybe he doesn't know, for example. Or she is seriously sick, and that will create a problem for her. Now, but apart from this, there is no third excuse in Sharia. Yes, we wives, we make a lot of excuses, but in Sharia, there is no excuse. Sometimes the wife, just to prove a point that she's upset with the husband, she doesn't give in. She refuses him on the bed. This is haram. Why is it haram, Ustad? Because we have hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the woman, the wife, who is perfectly okay, there's no Sharia inhibition, roadblock. Naam. The husband desires her and she refuses him. The angels will curse her from the night till the morning. The angels will curse her from the night until the morning. Why do you want to be cursed by the angels? Does it make sense? Hadith Sahih. There is another hadith, this time involving Hur al-Ain. Who is the Hur al-Ain? Who are the Hur al-Ain? Hur al-Ain are the damsels or the ladies of Jannah, whom Allah has created specifically for the men. So if this happens and she refuses him, and he's upset with her for that, and he is destined for Jannah, because we don't know where he's going, right? If the qadr of Allah that he's destined for Jannah, which means he will have Hur al-Ain, his Hur al-Ain will look from Jannah and she will tell the wife, it's just a matter of time. Soon he will be with us. So do what you wish. Allahu Akbar. So this again is a serious issue in marriages, we have seen. And it happens, sometimes based on the cases I've seen, people argue. They have a huge argument, the husband and the wife turns the other way and she sleeps. Now, or this carries on for a few days, or the husband doesn't allow her to visit her family, or doesn't get her a suit which she wants very badly, for whatever reasons. She uses this to punish him. The akhawat, the sisters and the wives, this is not a tool to punish your husband. It may be an effective tool, but it is not a tool. The Sharia has not given you this right. Unless you're sick seriously or you have your haid, the cycles. You cannot say no to your husband. This is his right upon you. And if you do, you saw the hadith. Now, so this is something which causes problems, because if the wife sometimes doesn't allow her husband, and we have seen, wallahi, I'm not joking. There are months pass, and the wife is adamant. She doesn't want to sleep with the husband. Months. Then what should the poor guy do? He has desires. What will he do? Yes, he's a practicing Muslim. Alhamdulillah, he's good, mashallah. Eventually, he has to look elsewhere. He's forced. And the masiyah or the sin of that is also on the wife. Because she was the root cause of this. Again, many sisters don't have knowledge of this sometimes. This is possible. They don't know what Allah tells about this situation. But once they know, they should, inshallah, do their best to avoid that situation. Number 6, which kind of goes to number 5 as well, is seeking the husband's permission for nafil fasts. What do we mean by nafil? Nafil is different from fard. Now, fard is your Ramadan fasting. This is something which Allah has decreed for everybody. So there is no need to seek permission. Ramadan comes, alhamdulillah, you can start fasting. And the husband cannot say, what are you doing? Why are you fasting? Sorry, it's Ramadan. So the husband has no right to question you or say, no, you can't fast. No, a'udhu billah, no. And even if he says that, you refuse him completely. So this is Ramadan, this is different. But nafil is something like the 6 days of Shawwal, Yom al-Ashura, Yom Arafah, Yom al-Ithnain, Yom al-Khamis. These are all nafil. Ayam al-Bayd, the white days, 13th, 14th, 15th. These are nafil fasting. So for this, she needs to seek her husband's permission before she can fast. Why? Why, ya Ustad? Why should I ask my husband? Why can't I just fast? He fasts without asking me. Why should I fast? Why should I ask his permission? Yani, see this feminism thing, yani, wallahi. Yani. See, if you map this in parallel to a corporate atmosphere, right? A company, an organization. You have a CEO, chief executive officer, the boss of the company, and you have employees under him. So the employee wants to take a leave, for example. He wants to take a day off. He has to seek the permission of his CEO. If the CEO wants to take a leave, he doesn't have to seek the employee's permission. He may inform them, this is possible because if something happens, they need to know whom to contact. He may inform them, FYI, for your information. But seeking permission, no, definitely no. He's the CEO, he's the boss. So don't come and tell me, okay, why should the husband not seek my permission? Subhanallah. You're turning the nizam upside down. And we'll have problems then with this in the family. As we see in the Western part of the world today. Not only Western, even other parts of the world today. So anyway, so why? Why is the reason? Because the scholars say the husband may want to fulfill a desire of his during the day. There's nafil fasting, so it's okay. You can make it up later. You can do it later. So she seeks the permission. If he says okay, alhamdulillah, go ahead. If he says no, I'm in the mood. I have booked this chalet for ourselves today. I want to spend some time together. We want to have lunch together. I say no, okay, no, sorry, you can't fast today. Okay, alhamdulillah, no problem, inshallah. Absolutely no issues. Father, clear? What else do you? Yeah, sorry. That's with the 6. So the rights of the husband, as you can see, compared to the rights of the wife, are much lesser in number. They're lesser in number. Now, so I think we'll stop with this. Just a couple of hadith before we wind up for today. So this is the hadith of in Musnad Ahmad and Abu Dawud in the Majah Sahih. The Rasulullah said, meaning of it is, upon you is their provisions and clothing from what is beneficial. So upon the husband, this is talking about the right of the wife. Is their provisions, the risk and the clothing from what is beneficial. And the woman is also responsible for establishing that which is required of her in the home, from supervision and reformation. So the wife is in charge of the family. When the husband is away at work, the wife is the boss. She takes care of the house. Everything in the house belongs to her. The house is her dominion. She is the manager. She can do what she wishes in the house. She can rearrange. She can put a sofa here and there. She can move something here. She's the boss. The husband should take it easy in this respect. And she takes care of the children. She's responsible for the children. Now, because in Bukhari and Muslim, Rawah Bukhari wa Muslim, Rasulullah said, a woman is a shepherd in her home and she'll be questioned concerning her flock or her children, and whoever else is in the house who's under her guardianship. She's the shepherd when the husband is away. But when the husband is in the house, he is the shepherd now. And both of them will be questioned regarding their flock. The husband's flock is the wife and the children. The wife's flock is the children and anybody else under her care. Barakallah. So inshallah we'll stop with this. Yeah, I think we'll stop with this. And we still get into the case studies. I have added an extra case study. I have 6 case studies. We'll do this next week, inshallah, Yawm al-Jum'ah. But again, about the time, I'm not sure because we have only 10 people today. So I'm not sure whether this time was also okay for you. I'm not really sure whether I should go back to the earlier time. So let me know on the Telegram channel, on the group, or even now on the chat box, which time is more suitable for you, yesterday's time or today's time. So next week, at least, we'll make sure we have more attendees, inshallah. Let me quickly see if you have any questions on the chat box. Okay, and the brothers can raise their hands as usual. Give me a moment here. There's a comment, there's a feedback. Husband has rights over his mother as a son, but balance should be maintained. Of course, we mentioned this. We'll talk about this when we talk about the use cases, the case studies. We have 6 case studies, and the husband, of course, has to maintain a balance. It's a tough balance sometimes, but yes, he has to. It's his responsibility to balance between his mother and his wife. Now. Okay. Does this respect of sujood applied even if the husband is not fulfilling the obligations toward his wife? Okay, so the sajda that we talked about is not something which is really done. It's not allowed. As we know in Islam, it is prohibited for anyone to make sajda to anybody else. Mother, father, dead person, grave, husband, wife, it is prohibited. The hadith says if it was allowed. The hadith is just to show you the immense rights of the husband over the wife. That's the meaning of the hadith. It doesn't talk about it. It doesn't mean you actually prostrate. The rights of the husband over the wife. What if the husband is not fulfilling the obligation, which means the wife's rights are not being fulfilled? Even then, because that he is answerable to Allah. Okay, again I repeat. The question is, if the wife's rights are not being fulfilled, does she still have to fulfill responsibilities towards the husband? Yes. Yes. Because the husband not fulfilling the rights of the wife, he will be questioned about on the day of judgment. Don't worry. Nothing is missed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah knows exactly what is happening in your family and what is in your heart and the husband's heart. And if the husband is willfully ignoring your rights, going against your rights, he has to answer Allah, not you. Yes, you may question him, you may shout at him, you may advise him. This is easy. But imagine standing in front of Allah on the day of judgment, in front of the whole hashr, the whole gathering of humans and jinn and angels, and Allah questions your husband. Mushkil, big problem. So yes, you do your part and make dua and leave the rest to Allah, inshallah. And we'll talk more about this when we talk about the use cases, inshallah. Okay. Husband qawwam. Yeah. Rajalu qawwamun ala nisa. Now, if a woman wants to make her left fard fast, she needs to take husband's permission? Okay, good question. So we said the sister or the wife should ask her husband's permission for nafil fasting. Now, but what about Ramadan fasts, for example, which are fard, which she has legitimately, as per Sharia, she has missed because she had her haid, for example, her cycles, her menstrual cycles, so she missed 5-6 days, whatever. She has to make them up. Yes. Should she seek permission from her husband? The scholars say, since these are fasts which have to be made up, and they can be made up anytime from Shawwal till the next Shaban. She has 11 months to make up 6 days. 11 months. So yes, to make it, to keep things good and beneficial, she can still ask her husband, and the husband in this case should allow, because it's a missed fast. The sooner she finishes, the better it is for her. Because the husband has finished his Ramadan fasting. So he should inshallah allow, but she should still ask him, because if the husband wants her to do it not today, tomorrow, fine, do it tomorrow, no problem, not a big deal. Because you have 11 months, but the husband should allow inshallah, because it is better to finish the Ramadan fasting faster and get that taken care of inshallah. Wallahu a'lam. Now, okay, today's time is good for me. Okay, can we send personal marital questions regarding issues to second wives, which can be answered later too? Yes. If you have Telegram, you can send the question to this ID on Telegram. Telegram is better because I use Telegram. You can post it. That's my ID on Telegram. So if you just download Telegram and search for that at Naveed AHM, you will see me, and you can send me the message, inshallah. Wallahu alam. But the way we usually do it, and I will also post this to everybody on the group. That's my Telegram direct message ID on Telegram at NAVEED AHM. But the way I usually do it, because if many people approach me with issues in families, which is normal, but I do not counsel or discuss matters with the sisters. I do it with the brothers. So my wife would do it with the sisters, and then we share notes and we advise both the parties. So this prevents any fitna between the opposite sexes. So, and usually the sisters will come, the brothers hardly come. Yeah, the brothers try to, I'm a man, right? So that's the thing, right? So they try to manage things themselves, which is fine, as long as they can manage things themselves. Sometimes the brothers don't even know they have a problem. That's the issue. Sometimes the brothers in the marriages and the husbands, they don't even know there is a problem. Allah al-Mustan yani. But the sisters, the wives, they approach me, and they approach me and with the question, that not no voice messages, please no voice messages. Type out the question, type out your issue, and send it to me, and I will reply back to you on Telegram, and we can take your number or any other ID, whatever, for chatting, and I'll give it to my wife, so she will contact you, and then I will contact your husband if there is a need, if that is possible, and we will discuss the issue, and that's how we usually do it. Allah al-Mustan, and this is most beneficial, inshallah, because it prevents the fitna. Because sometimes people and shuyukh, they talk to both men and women. I don't like that. I don't like discussing with women verbally, but on chat is okay. Chat is fine, inshallah. You can send me a chat message, and then my wife, inshallah, will call you or chat with you, whatever, inshallah, to understand the situation, and then I will look at the husband's situation, and then we can, inshallah, bismillah, if Allah wishes, try to solve the problem. Barakallah fikum. Type. Anything else? Any questions? No? Done for day? Excuse me. We'll see you, inshallah, tomorrow. Sorry, next week. Yom al Juma. I don't know the timing. Not sure really. I'm not sure the timing really. Let's see. I'll probably put a poll on the group and see what is best for you. Whether today's time is better or yesterday's time is better. But we'll see, inshallah. We'll work out something. Barakallahu fikum. Jazakumullah khairan. And we'll see you, inshallah, next week to kind of complete. Inshallah, we will complete next week. The other part of the dars, which is the use cases, case studies. We'll go into details, and I want your solutions. Yeah, I want your inputs on that, on how to solve based on what we discussed so far. So have a quick look at this before we start next class, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وآخر الدعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.